You probably noticed there's a frog sitting on my shoulder. He is not the star of today's story, but he's definitely a frog. I have a big fondness for frogs. I've actually never owned one or had one for a pet, because you don't own your pets. They're sort of your buddies. But because I have this great fondness, people are always giving me frogs, not real ones. So I brought him along because I think he'll like my story. And I also brought his mama. So that's my frog, and that is his mama, or maybe it's his papa. And they of course have different names. Tadpoles when they're babies, and when they grow up they're frogs or toads. Our story today is about two frogs, and I'm going to tell it with the puppets I made. Then I'm going to show you how to make two. It's got a few little glitchy things in them. A glitchy means that some of it is a little bit more difficult, especially for small hands, even hands like mine. So you don't have to do that part. Matter of fact, I highly recommend that if you decide you wanted to make a puppet you can put your hand into, that you ask for help. And asking for help is probably a piece of this story as well. The story is by Leo Lionni. Leo Lionni wrote some just wonderful stories and illustrated them himself as well. He was born in the Netherlands, came to the United States with his wife and his kids, and he wrote some beautiful, beautiful stories, and I hope to be telling you more of his stories, and maybe you've heard some of them. One is Frederick, about a mouse, and he likes mice. I don't. I think I prefer frogs, but those mice, Frederick, oh, beautiful story. He wrote one called Swimmy, about joining together, and maybe we'll do that one because it's a really good school story. But enough about that. Let's look at what our theme characters are made of today. The story contains three frogs. They're quarrelsome frogs. What does that mean? That means they're always fighting. Everything belongs to one of them, and they don't share very well. That is the sum and substance of our story, is the inability of these three frogs to share. The frogs I'm using today were made out of recyclable bottles. Recyclable, reusable, use them and tell a story. We're recycling them to tell this fabulous story. Now, sometimes when I have the time, and because it makes it a really cool puppet, I take this part off. So let me show you what that looks like. I've taken it off, and I've taken it off really very carefully. In order to do that, I have to poke a hole in it to get the scissors through. They're great because they're really soft. These aren't so soft. So you need a little bit of patience. And of course, as I said before, you need some help. So what I'm going to do is just squish this dude together. See how easy that is? Because the squishy ones, then you take this part off. And that's cool. Take this part off, and then you have it. And what do you do with that? First of all, somebody, no names, me, didn't dry it out really well because I hadn't cut it yet. But once you dry it out, it becomes a puppet because you can put it on your hand. So that's the base of a, excuse me. It's always good to have something you guys can't see down there. You might be pretending that I have a towel, but I don't. I just wiped it on my shirt. Don't do that. Get a towel. Actually, get a towel and wipe it out first, especially if it's a sticky, icky substance. But this was water, which we love, right? And that's good for making frogs because frogs jump in and out of the water. This one is a little bit bigger, so we could use that one as well. I've used this one before. Maybe you've seen it. See what it's got? It's got some symbols as if it were a king. We do not have a king in this story. But I just wanted you to see what would happen if you decorated the top, which looks like a crown. We might do that another time to be the king in our story. But as I said before, we don't have a king. We do have a hero in our story. And it isn't the three frogs. The three frogs are named Milton, Rupert, and Lydia. I think one of the reasons I love this story is because I've never heard anyone named frogs Rupert, Lydia, or Milton. So who wouldn't love a story like that? So here they are, Rupert, Lydia, and or Milton. I'm going to set them before you so you can see what they look like. I made them out of green bottles. Some beverages come in green. If you don't have a green beverage, no big deal, right? This is his cute little hand, legs. His legs of a frog are really strong because they propel the frog along. They make him hop. His arms are short. They didn't need them for walking. So what did I do? I cut the top off, just like I did in the other, and I made him into a frog. He's got big hind legs. He's got small arms, and he's got great big eyes. So I think, because I've already called him he, this one will be Milton. And just so I don't forget who's who in the story, I'm going to give him an M on the front of his shirt. I think Milton would like that. So you know what I'm going to do even better? Because I may not be able to see it. I'm going to make it on the back at the end of the story. So I'm going to turn Milton upside down so I can reach in and get him. And then I'm going to reach over there and get, looks just like the other one, number 2 frog. The number 2 frog is named Rupert. I don't know anyone named Rupert. Do you know anyone named Rupert? I do not. So I'm going to make an R on the back of Rupert, so I will know who Rupert is. And then, last and certainly not least, we have Lydia. Great name, Lydia. And here she is. She doesn't look a whole lot different than the other frogs. So I'm going to know who Lydia is by putting an L on the back of her frog shirt. She doesn't have a t-shirt because she's a frog. Now, there's 2 other characters in our story. One is a reoccurring character who helps us make scenery. Of course, there's flowers, so I brought these along. These are napkin holders to make a pretty table. So I'm just going to actually put flowers on my scenery right here. I don't know if you can scenery it, but trust me, it's there. And every once in a while, maybe I'll even pick it up for you. And then, butterflies. Butterflies. So what I did, I got in the mail these really pretty cards. Or you can find some in the newspapers or in the magazine. And I said, wow, I would love to figure out a way to make these into puppets. So what I did was, because they're mine and no one else's, I took my scissors and I cut the butterfly's picture up. This is a monarch. We have a pollinator garden outside, which is good because the butterflies need to have the flowers pollinated so they can eat, and then they can go lay their eggs on our butterfly bushes and then make caterpillars, and so goes the way the caterpillar world is when they stretch. Maybe you remember a story that, if you haven't seen, is available to you on the mentor page. See what I'm doing? Cutting out that butterfly, so I need you to see how to do it. If you don't have a picture of a butterfly, you know what? Make one. All you need is a bunch of color, and you can make up your own butterfly. Let's say your name is Marilyn. You can have a Marilyn butterfly. Now, see these 2 pieces here? I want you to just put them around like that, and then take a piece of tape or a stapler and tape it together. It's awesome. And then what you have is you have your very own finger puppet butterfly. So he can be in your story. So I'm going to put the butterfly here so I can pick it up and grab it. Wait, one more character in our story. The bullfrog is really important in this story. The bullfrog, for all practical purposes, is our hero. I've got one more flower I have to put in our scene. This is what my grandson made me. He was 3, maybe 2. So I've always kept it. It's a pot. Here is a great big rock. Truth told, it's not a rock. It's a big rock. But you can get a rock take a walk, get a rock, but make sure you can lift it. Because if it's too heavy, it's not really good for making a story. So you'll pick it up, you go, ugh, this one is hollow. So I took a good solid look at my friend the rock, and I made him into a bullfrog. Get ready. Now, bullfrog and a frog have the same strong back legs. So here they are, strong back legs. I just cut them out, glued them on, and then they have the same big old eyes. Now, this rock was very kind to me. It had a seam right here. The reason it had a seam is because it's not real. And they had to put these two pieces together. Your rock may not have a seam. So in order to make its mouth stick out, you know it's not going to open and close its mouth. Just take a marker, draw that on. If you don't have a big old rock, that's good. That's fine. You can make a bullfrog right out of your hand. And bullfrogs and frogs leap. They go into the water. They come out of the water. Sometimes they just leap and get a fly, and then they eat it. Each to his own, right? Bullfrog. So the bullfrog is in our story. He comes in later. And let's see, do I have everything? Let me check our supplies before we start our story by Leo Lionni. And these are the operative words. Every time in our story, as our characters become more and more quarrelsome, they fight a lot, one of them says, "It's mine." So Leo Lionni very cleverly says, the title of the story is "It's Mine." It's written and published, let me show you the book, by Leo Lionni. And it was published in 1985. It's a long time ago. 35 years ago, Leo Lionni wrote this book. And here's something about it. I think you might be interested. If not, I'll show it to you anyway, because I love this. It's been written in many languages. So this is "It's Mine" in Chinese. And I think if you look really carefully, you can see, and I can't read Chinese, so I can't tell you. I'm just going to assume that the publisher said that. That's Leo Lioni's name in Chinese. Pretty cool, huh? So Leo Lionni, "It's Mine." And one more time. Oh, I am so sorry. One more character. This is a pipe cleaner chenille stick. We're going to make it into a worm, because one of the things we fight about is a worm. So if you have one of these, carefully fold down the ends so that it won't scratch you, and then just twist it until it looks kind of wormy. Got it? All right, I'm going to put that in our supplies, along with our butterfly, our flower. I have two butterflies. I made one for a while ago because I had such a good time. All right, are you ready to help me tell the story? Thanks. Flowers, butterfly, one big old bullfrog over here. Story starts like this. In the middle of Rainbow Pond, there was a small island. Smooth pebbles lined its beaches, and it was covered with ferns and lovely weeds. On the island, there lived 3 quarrelsome frogs. Their names were Lydia, Rupert, and Milton. They quarreled and quibbled from dawn to dusk. "Stay out of the pond," yelled Milton. "The water is mine." "Get off the island," shouted Rupert. "The earth is mine." "The air is mine," screamed Lydia, as she leaped to catch a butterfly, and on it went. Every day they quarreled about something. It didn't even matter what it was. One day, a large toad appeared before them. "Lydia, Rupert, and Milton looked up when they saw the large toad. They weren't frightened, but they'd never seen him before. And the large toad said, I live on the other side of the island, and you are always quarreling. You're always shouting, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine, all day long. There's no peace because of your endless bickering. You can't go on like this. With that, he slowly turned and hopped through the woods. No sooner than he left than Milton looked around and hopped through the leaves, and he came across a very large worm, and he started to run away with it. As soon as he had left, Lydia and Rupert raced after him, and he said, it's mine, defiantly. That went on again, day after day after day. And one day, in the middle of one of those tedious quarreling, it began to rain. And it rained and rained and rained and rained until the little island turned to mud. And then it continued to rain, and all the rocks were covered by the water. Oh, the frogs were scared. Desperately, they clung to the few slippery stones that rose above the wild, dark water. But soon, they too began to disappear. There was only one rock left. They huddled together on that rock. And then they felt better because they were together, sharing the same fears and hopes, and little by little, the flood subsided, and rain fell gently, and then it stopped. But look, the rock that had saved them was no rock at all. Saved us, shouted the frogs, Milton, Rupert, and Lydia. And the next morning, when the water had cleared, Sunday, they chased after silver minnows on the sandy bottom of the pond. Joyfully, the frogs jumped in, and side by side, they swam all around the island. Together, they leaped after the butterflies that filled the air. And later, when they nestled in the weeds, they felt happy in the way they had never been before. Milton said, isn't it peaceful? Rupert said, isn't it beautiful? And Lydia said, you know what? They said, what? It's ours. And that is the truth. None of all of what we have is mine or yours. I like to think it's ours. So when you're sitting around thinking about the things that are yours, they're actually all of ours to share. Leo Lionni in 1985 got that, and he told the story with 3 frogs, cleverly named Milton, Rupert, and Lydia, and one big frog who saved them all as they huddled together. So make a puppet, tell a story, live happily ever during. That, my friend, is the end. Have a great day, a good day, a day full of good. Bye for now.